Today, I'm going to be breaking down the newest acquisition of the St. Louis Blues, Radek Faksa from the Dallas Stars. So, this was the first of two trades that the Blues made this offseason, at least so far in week one of free agency. And it is probably perhaps the least exciting of the three, but it was chronologically the first. So, we'll be going over the other two very soon. Um, but Radek Faksa is acquired from the Dallas Stars for future considerations. There seems to be a theme with the Blues' newest moves, but regardless, Faksa is 30 years old and measures in at 6'3". He is 220 pounds, so a very large player. Good size, which allows him to play center, especially as he is pretty solid on the faceoff, but can also play winger. He's a fourth liner, so that's partially why it's perhaps maybe not the most exciting move, but still will play valuable time on the fourth line. This season, he will have a $3.25 million cap hit, and this coming off season, he will become a UFA. So this is the last year of his deal. This is essentially a rental for a fourth liner that we only had to give up future considerations for. So I suppose the return for Dallas remains to be seen, but this does shore up our bottom six and specifically fourth line center depth, which was pretty lackluster last year. I think we can all agree on that. Faksa was a former first round pick. He was selected 13th overall in 2012 by Dallas. So he does have that high draft pedigree, although arguably you could say that he's never quite lived up to it. His best season probably came in 2019, 2020. Or excuse me, it probably came before the 2019 seasons. Probably you would say his best season was in 2017-18. He played 79 games, put up 17 goals and 16 assists for 33 points. That was his highest goal scoring mark in his career by far. And he really has only been a depth player for most of his career. Last season, or I'll recap the last 5 years of play. So in 2020, 2021, he put up 20 points with a -6. And in that year's playoffs, he put up 8 points in 19 games. Um, the next season, he put up 14 points in 55 games at a -15 mark. So perhaps not as exciting. And the Stars didn't make the playoffs in 2020 and 2021. Then in 2021-22, put up 19 points, 5 goals, 14 assists in 77 games. So basically a full season's work. A -20 mark. That was probably the worst season of this stretch so far. Also added 2 points in 7 playoff games. Not very exciting. Um, Going from there, it does seem like he sort of tuned up his game a little bit, because the following season in 2022-23, which is a season we're going to hone in a lot on this episode, really the last two seasons, in 2022-23, he put up 20 points, 11 goals, 9 assists with a plus minus of 9 in 81 games. So basically the full season again. So this is significant because it's the first time his plus minus was positive, and also scored 11 goals, which was almost double his highest total before then, and tied his highest in 2019-20. Additionally, in that year's playoffs, put up 3 points in 19 games, so admittedly not very exciting in the playoffs, and that is a theme that will continue with him. In last season, put up 19 points, just one shy of the mark he put up the year before. But played 74 games, so in 7 less games, put up basically the same stat line, but with goals and assists reversed, with 7 goals, 12 assists, and a plus minus of 0. So Fax has played a lot and a lot of depth minutes, which are often very tough shifts, especially for stats. And there's a reason players are on third and fourth lines also. Never really been the most exciting goal scorer or point tallier. But we do see that beginning in that 2022-23 season, we really see a shift towards his defensive game. So coming out as a prospect, he was kind of promised as this potentially good two-way forward, and that really never came to be. And I think finally, at least looking at his stat sheet and watching him play against the Blues, it does feel like he's really put more effort into making better contributions defensively. Um, so building off of that, actually, according to Patrick Bacon and Top Down Hockey's model, he put up 0.29 D-WAR in 2022-23, which is their statistic for like defensive WAR, which is a version of baseball statistic WAR, meaning wins above replacement. So this is essentially a positive value in the amount of defensive ability he added to team play. So that mark of 0.29 in 2022-23, and that's because the data for last season isn't out yet. So the most recent data we have for the 2022-23 season, his mark of 0.29 D-WAR puts him 30th among all forwards in the NHL. 30th might not be top 10 numbers, but still, that is a very, very high mark um, for a fourth liner. That's something that I am just very impressed by. So, as I've been saying, this is a defensive guy. Um, won't really ever light it up on the stat sheet, but is interesting. Speaking of which, in 2017-18, I'll just say the latter year of the season to make things more clear because that's when awards are voted on. So in 2018, 2019, 2021, and 2023, Faksa received Selke votes. 2018, he finished seventh in the voting, which was by far his highest mark. The rest were 24, 21, and 19, but still received Selke votes, and even down ballot in one season, close to. So again, a very good defensive forward who has good size, and the other thing about him that makes him a promising prospect to play center, he has a pretty good faceoff win rate. So looking at Money Puck's metrics at 5-on-5 hockey, which is most of the time he plays, and it's when he'll be his most valuable. He didn't play any minutes on the power play last year for Dallas, and I expect he probably won't play on either special teams unit. Maybe a second penalty kill center could take over that Kevin Hayes role, which I think is significant here, which we'll get to in a moment. So at 5-on-5, he had a 56.3 faceoff win rate last season. That is very good. Anything over 50% is pretty solid, and 56.3% is very good. Additionally, for another metric at 5-on-5 hockey, according to Money Puck, he had 20 takeaways to only 4 defensive zone giveaways. So just takes care of the puck for the most part at 5-on-5. Very sound in his game that way. The metrics aren't as good on special teams, which is why I expect he probably won't play a ton of special teams minutes. But that remains to be seen, and that is a decision that the coaching staff will make. Additionally, a lot of his other metrics are very good on Money Puck, but I won't go into all of them. There's quite a few, and they're very hard to explain. But the last one that I will go into is that not only was he able to put up these solid defensive numbers, the usage that Dallas had Faksa in was very detrimental and difficult for him. He had the second highest percent of shifts started on the fly. So this is plays that are counted as like still developing, or the situation isn't set. It isn't like, okay, I can go in, I can get to this position, and I know what I need to do. It's very much like read and react to what's happening on the ice and just try and not be a negative, essentially. And he had the second highest percentage on the entire Stars team last year, and still put up all of these very promising defensive metrics. So Faksa probably won't offer much offensively, but he'll play a very strong defensive game on the fourth line, hopefully. And so I think there is a lot to like on this deal. Additionally, this is very important to consider when given the context of the Kevin Hayes trade that went down during the draft. So I'm sure we're all aware Kevin Hayes traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins. That he was a special teams player and depth center and winger. I should say Faxa can also play left wing. So this is essentially what I see as the replacement to the Kevin Hayes deal, but with a more of a realization that he probably shouldn't be playing middle 6 minutes like Kevin Hayes was last year. So a lot more promising of a Kevin Hayes than Kevin Hayes was, honestly, because offensively, Hayes was just borderline atrocious. I know Blues fans feel maybe mixed about his play, but he really didn't create much, and Faxa probably won't either. But defensively, he is an upgrade and then some to what Hayes gave us. The only thing about this is that his cap hit is still a full cap hit. Dallas is not retaining any of his salary and is essentially the same to what Kevin Hayes was making. Faxa's cap hit, as I said, is 3.25 million against the cap. That is pretty high for a defensive depth center, but it isn't anything that should hamstring the team or will limit their upside in any way. Um, so that I do get a little bit of pause with the deal he's on, but as I said, he's going to be a UFA after this year versus Kevin Hayes has 2 more years remaining on his deal that now Pittsburgh is covering the entirety of. So this is essentially a lot safer of a play with Kevin Hayes. Offers a lot defensively, probably not much offensively, probably not much in the playoffs. In the scenario that the Blues make it to the playoffs too, his track record is pretty poor in the playoffs, but as a fourth line center or winger, wherever they need him, should take up valuable minutes and should play his role better than his successor. But let us know what you think in the comments. We'll be responding to any questions you guys may have. Um, Also, check us out on all our socials: Twitter, Instagram. Give us a like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts on YouTube. Give us a 5-star rating. We appreciate it. And we will have more content for you very soon coming out in the next couple days about the other newest acquisitions of the St. Louis Blues. But for now and until then, let's go Blues.